Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports. This week will be our NFC North breakdown, Week 16. Without my dad and my uncle at the moment because the video we did make ended up not working well. I lost the audio on that one, so I kind of got to remake it. Hopefully, this goes just as well. We'll start with the Bears game in the NFC North this week. The Bears ended up beating the crappy Cardinals, 3-12 Cardinals now. It was expected. The Bears have a really good future coming with them. Justin Fields is going to have a bright future. I don't think they should move on from him. Will they? Maybe. We'll see if they even end up firing their coach or not. It's also possible still. But I think Justin Fields will be fine. He had an all right day, a usual day for him. He threw for 170 yards, had a TD interception, and also ran for 100 yards. I mean, he is a good quarterback. You can't deny that. And the Bears should not move on from him. Like I said, he's going to be able to help that team. You just got to get an offensive line in front of him, and he's going to do a lot better because he has plenty of weapons between Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. If you're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., right, you're going to have options for him, and that is going to be a lot better for Chicago if they probably stick with Justin Fields and work with those two top picks in a different area besides drafting a quarterback. The second game to go over is the Packers game. The Packers barely beating the Carolina Panthers, and honestly, they probably should have lost to them with how they were playing. If you let Carolina put 30 points up on you, you probably deserve to lose. And they got lucky just because Bryce Young couldn't get the spike off in time. They said it was too late, and they ran out of time, and they were not able to get a playoff, and they might have beaten them. Jordan Love had a decent day too, 207 yards, 2 TDs, and he ran for 12 yards. And Jordan Love looks like even though he's iffy, he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's probably not going to be the one to lead them anywhere, but he will be good enough to help them get potentially into a playoff spot. I just don't know if he's good enough to get them to a Super Bowl. Him alone is not going to be good enough, but he'll be good enough to at least keep the team in a decent spot right there around 500. They're still technically fighting for their playoff lives too. But for the most part, I don't see Jordan Love as a very far future plan. I think he's going to, like I said, good enough to get you the wins, but not good enough to fully get you into the playoffs and get you beyond that point to fully get yourself in a good position. But they also had a good rushing attack against Carolina for 162 yards. Your defense just sucked. They let Bryce Young throw 300 yards on them. They let them run for another 100. And Green Bay needs to fully figure out what they need to do in the offseason if they want to come back into somewhat relevancy, right? We thought they would be worse this year. My dad, I probably would disagree with that, but we all thought they would at least be bottom of the division, more or less with the Bears. I think most of us felt with the Bears and Packers would have been swapped in standings, but the Packers figured something out. They did good this year, or at least good enough, and they still have their playoff hopes alive with about 2 weeks left in the year, and they have a good shot. They aren't really playing that difficult of teams. It's going to come down to this week, and we'll get a little bit more into that after we go over our last game. My uncle not really getting to get his opinion out, and hopefully he will about the game. I know he was pretty happy about it. Lions beating the Vikings 30-24, clinching the NFC North for the first time in 30 years. And it has been a long 30 years for a lot of people. And it's good to just relax now. You don't really have to worry future wise for the Lions, right? 2 more weeks can rest people if they feel like it. If they want to fight for standings, they can. Don't know if they should with the Eagles winning and the 49ers losing. You are tied for first, but you have the other teams both have tiebreakers on you. So you have to have a better record than both of them for you to be even somewhat happy with it. But Jared Goff had a decent day, threw for 257 yards, had a TD, but it was mostly the rushing game between Gibbs having 80 yards, Montgomery having 55, and overall rushing for 143 yards. You had that opportunity uh, to win this game, even though it came down to the end, and Milifanu getting that final interception and engraving himself in Detroit sports history with that interception to finally win the division. And even J-Mo, he had a great day. St. Brown had 12 catches for 106. J-Mo had 5 catches for 43 with some really good plays. And again, same thing that Goff has been doing the past few weeks since he's been struggling. He's spreading around the ball. He had a total of 8 or 9 different receivers catching a ball in the game against Minnesota, and he's just spreading it around. If you're guarding one guy, he has another guy to throw to, and that's basically what he's been doing the whole time. He has not had to worry about anything. He's just been spreading around the ball. One guy's covered. I'm going to give it to another guy, and that's when you get those Khalif Raymond, those Jameer Gibbs, those Josh Reynolds, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those kinds of receptions are going to happen when you cover those better players, and even Peoples-Jones. He's making big catches, even if it's just 1 or 2 for the game. He is making big catches every single time he is making a catch, and that is good. I mean, you want these smaller players to have an impact on the game just as much. And then when it comes to Minnesota, Mullins didn't have a bad day. He threw for 373, 2 TDs, but the problem is he threw 4 interceptions. He was just forcing the ball. He threw it majority of the time. Uh, the Vikings only ran 11 times for 17 yards. And that's basically what's the problem. You're forcing Nick Mullins to throw the whole game. And what ended up happening is he ended up just forcing the ball a couple times and ended up throwing those picks. And then again, that last one that solidified the game for the Lions and making it a lot easier on them for the rest of the year. 2 games left. Don't even really have to worry about it unless you really, really want to play for seeding. You're guaranteed that 3rd spot in the NFC. So you will get that home playoff game, at least one home playoff game. So looking at the schedule ahead, we will start with the Bears, their next opponent. Technically, their playoff hopes are still alive. They have to win out and hope the other 2 ended up losing. They play the Falcons, which also are fighting for their playoff lives. And I'll go a little bit more into everybody's playoff hopes too, since the Lions have now clinched it and we figure out who we're going to be playing. But they will be playing the Falcons, who are a 7-8 team fighting for not only the NFC South, but again, a playoff spot. And then they end the year against the Packers. So hopefully, right, if the Bears want to have a good year, they want to finish winning out, they'll be 7-9. And honestly, or 8-9. And honestly, that's not a bad year for the Bears. I think they can be pretty happy with that. Moving on to the other game, it is a divisional matchup, and honestly, this is going to be the game to decide who is in the playoffs and who is not out of the NFC North. If we are going to get one team, the Packers and Vikings are playing in Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. Depending on, again, who wins this game, they're going to be 8-8. The other will be 7-9, eliminated from the playoffs. The other 8-8, and having their chance to clinch the next week. The Vikings will be facing us. They might still be playing for their playoff hopes in that sense in weeks 18, after the Packers are going to be playing the Bears. And again, if playoff hopes are still alive for the Bears too, then they also are going to be fighting. So the next 2 games for both the Vikings and Packers are going to be very, very important for them for their playoff hopes. Otherwise, right, all we got left is the Lions, who have nothing to worry about because they're going to be playing the Cowboys this week. If you're worried about standings, you're going to try your best to win that game, but I expect a more rotation to get some people some rest, make sure no one's getting hurt before the playoffs happen. And we're not really going to have to worry about those injuries, as CJ is going to be coming back. McNeil could be coming back. Houston could be coming back. We're going to have the opportunity to get a lot more people coming back off of injury before playoffs and be a fully healthy team, not what we expected going into playoffs completely. We expected to be healthy for a good amount of the year, but everyone gets hurt, and it's going to happen. But we are going to have a good rest of the year. It's going to be entertaining throughout the NFC North. Now, looking at the standings, the playoff standings for the rest of the year. Currently, it sits San Francisco, Philly, Detroit as the top 3 teams. For Detroit, they're going to have to hope Philly loses to the Cardinals or the Giants. I don't think that's going to happen, even with the close game Philly had last night with the Giants coming down to the wire. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Philly's going to win out. They're going to be 13-4. San Fran, though, they don't have as easy of a schedule. They have Commanders and Rams. Rams are fighting for playoff hopes. They probably will end up beating the Commanders, but that Rams game, even though it's in San Francisco, might not be as easy. They might lose one. That gives you your opportunity if you also win out the hop. But they both have tiebreakers against you. I expect you to be the 3rd team. You're going to have to go to San Fran or Philly, most likely, to end up in a future playoff game if you win your wild card game. Currently, the top wild card is either going to be Dallas or Philly. Whoever wins that division, the second place team will be that 5th wild card spot. But looking at the other ones, the next two are LA and Seattle. Right now, you're the Lions, you're playing Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And some people really, really want to see that. Some people don't want to see that. I think it would be a great game, either if you play the Rams or Seattle. I think it would be pretty entertaining. Obviously, I think most people would want to end up facing an NFC South team as they are still in play. The Rams, like I said, they have a must-win game this week, I would say. They have must-win games the rest of the year, but they're playing the Giants. The Rams can handle that. I think the Rams might end up being the 7th seed because they could win out, be 10-7, and have a good spot in the playoffs as that 6th seed. Seattle, this last place one, they will probably win one game. They might win two. You have Steelers, you have Cardinals. They might lose to the Steelers because Steelers might have found their place with Mason Rudolph. But we'll see what happens when they play each other. It will be a good game. That will be on at 4:00 on Sunday. And then you got the Seahawks and Cardinals to end the year, and the Seahawks should beat the Cardinals. So if they beat the Steelers, I would expect your wild card teams to be the Rams and Seahawks. We already kind of went over Green Bay and Minnesota as they're also fighting for their playoff lives. But the NFC South, right? Whoever wins that, you got Tampa, who's trying to fight to win that. They have the Saints and Panthers, which the Saints themselves are also fighting for that playoff spot. And they're playing the Bucks and Falcons, who are also playing for the playoff spot, who are playing the Bears and then the Saints. So that whole entire NFC South, if you want to figure out who's going to win that, that's the games to watch the next 2 weeks. Those three teams are going to be facing each other on top of a couple other teams just to figure out who's going to be in that one last NFC South spot and potentially sneak into a wild card. Any of them could sneak into it. If I had to make a prediction, I would say your playoffs are pretty set besides your NFC South team. Whoever ends up with the better record, of course, at the end of the year is going to end up with that. Tampa currently is leading it. I think if Tampa can win one game, they're going to be good. And honestly, with their schedule, they should beat the Panthers, and they should be fine to end the year as the NFC South champ. So honestly, I think the playoffs are set in the NFC. What you see right now, teams might move around a little bit, but I feel like what we have right now is what you're going to see in the playoffs. Lions will face the Rams. Philly will play the Seahawks, and then Tampa and Dallas will have a matchup. Leading you, probably what I would say is probably what's going to happen is Dallas beats Tampa. I think we can beat the Rams. I think Philly will beat Seattle, even though that was even though that game, they already had that game this year, but they're going to be switching around. I see that happening, which means we would have to go play in Philly, and then Dallas has to go play in San Francisco, which in that case, those would be two very, very good the divisional round games. That would be very entertaining. And we'll see what ends up happening. But like I said, the Lions have nothing to worry about. Cowboys, Vikings, they at least can split that. I expect 12 wins probably on the year and finish the year off strong. With all that being said, though, let me know what you think in the comments about what has been on in the NFC North this week, even the playoff scenarios, because that is a very interesting playoff scenario. Just let me know in the comments. Share the video around, right? Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And until next time, hope to see everybody soon.